Hello, Fabulous DIYers. It's Daniela Tabois here, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new to this channel, welcome. Now, we are at the end of the budget gown series, but I asked you guys to help me design the final gown of the series, and I did a poll right over here. And you guys selected basically what I was feeling as well. Today, we're going to be shopping for fabric so I can create a wedding ball gown that is off the shoulder. So I have a budget of $100 and I need to go and find materials and all my other supplies within $100. This is going to be grand, guys. This is going to be grand, and I hope I can find some deals because a wedding gown, it's already expensive. So for me to do it in $100, let's see if I can work some magic, okay? So I'm gonna head out right now. Okay, people, so this is what's gonna happen. I'm gonna zip through a lot of fabric stores today to see what they have. If they don't have anything in one store, I'm gonna go to the next because I need to find a really good deal and a lot of material within this $100. So I gotta be frugal. So the first stop is Save-A-Thon. Let's see what they have. I guess not. Nothing here. Oh, let me see this color. I don't like the black border. Too much floral. I like this, but it's too dark. If it was more in the lighter colors, that would be much better. What is this? It's not reading wedding. Oh, this is pretty. This pleat. This pleating is nice. It's $2.99. Okay, so I just left Save-A-Thon. They didn't have anything that caught my attention, so I'm gonna go into the city. This is pretty too. Does this come in white? White? No.
I have it in the sequence, black and white.
No.
No,
Do you like these? This silver and white is really pretty. If I buy organza to line it, really pretty. Colors. How much is this?
$15.
All right. Between this one and then this pink one, and I really like the pink. I think it's different. So I need to go get some organza, and he don't have any right now, so I'm gonna go look for some organza somewhere else. Can I have
How many?
5?
5.
How much?
Same price.
Okay.
The reason over there what we're gonna do is like we want to have to take and
Excuse me? How much? Okay. Can I have receipt? You have white organza? Heavy.
Heavy, no.
Stiff.
I don't think so. Only white. This one, look at it.
No, this one is too light.
Not a more heavy.
Okay, I just finished looking at the organzas, and they don't have any of the colors or the quality that I'm looking for. So now I'm gonna go to another spot again to see if I can find the quality that I want.
Today and find the perfect holiday scratch-off game. The gift that dreams are made of. Must be 18 years or older to purchase a lottery ticket.
I'm a bit disappointed that I can't find the quality that I want. I find it in other colors, but I can't find it in the right fabric, in the color that I need. How much is this? All right, so can I have 5 yards? How much?
How many yards he gave you?
5.
2.
Can I have a receipt? Thank you. Now in the mission of finding horsehair braid I can afford, and also I gotta pick up boning. Okay, thank
So this is a white invisible is here.
you. Okay.
So how many inches?
Can you give me 20 inches?
How many?
1. Thank you. How much is this one?
$1.50.
Okay, yeah, 2 yards.
13.50.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Let me go get this. Hello. Can I have 7 yards? How much is this? Before I tell you.
$2 per yard.
Okay. So can I have 7?
7.
Yes. Ooh, I'm so hot.
See, $14.
$14. Okay guys, so I got my components and now it's time for me to head home and work on this gown. This is the ideal design that I was thinking about creating. So let's see how this goes. I'm gonna cut out my patterns on muslin, and for the center front I'm gonna extend it out. So from here I'm gonna cut outwards so that way I can drape it to do the crossover front. What I'm gonna do is just cut up here and then cut the complete pattern out. Like this. So this is the second flounce that I created. and I'm going to connect it to the first flounce, which is this one. So I'm just going to connect it like this because I want it to wrap around towards the back. I'm going to put this arm on the shoulder so I can see the drape of the sleeve for the off the shoulder. This can help a lot. This one, then I'll strip this, cut some of this off. So I'm going to use tight ready force, so I can pull off of that. Gonna mark where my pleat is so that way when so here I'm just marking where I'm going to insert the flounce at the neckline point. So I'm just gonna have to separate this, but before I do, I'm gonna make this all even and make my proper adjustments before cutting it out, before I separate this. So I'm adding a ½ inch to the inside of the flounce. So I'm going to copy the front only. I have a pattern for the side panel, so I don't need to copy that. I'm just going to copy this and add my seam allowance to the neckline. So now I'm going to cut it out twice, one on the self fabric and also one for the lining fabric. So I finished cutting the flounces and this is what it looks like. I'm going to put my flounces together before I start working on the bodice. So I already cut out my underlayer lining for the flounce on with the organza, and I'm gonna go ahead and sew it together. I'm going to sew the side seams together. Alright, I sewed everything. Ooh, what I like about this fabric is that it doesn't fray. Yes! So that way you won't see those threads hanging when it flips on the other side, because you know the fabric is sheer. So now I'm going to place the flounce on the wrong side onto the face of the face of the flounce fabric like this, and then I'm going to sew 1/4 inch nicely around the edge of the flounce. So I fully stitched everything and it is cleaned up. I also cleaned up the arm part of the off the shoulder. So what I'm going to do is turn it inside out. Alright, so my flounces are done. I did a half size of the first flounce and I'm ready to install. So here is my front bodice. So what I'm going to do is start placing the flounce right on top, stopping before I hit the 1/2 inch line, so maybe about 1 inch away from the 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to start to pin the princess panel so I can sew 1/2 inch to this bodice. And before I go ahead and pleat this into the princess seam of the other side of the bodice, I'm going to go ahead and line it. So this is the underlayer lining, so I'm going to go ahead and stitch this together at the neckline, making sure I match everything up. And sew this 1/2 inch at the neckline, and I won't connect the princess panel to this just yet. Here is the front of the bodice. This is the lining. The neckline is cleaned, and now I'm going to go ahead and connect this together, pleat it into place so I can place it right here at the princess seam of the other bodice. Okay, so here's the bodice. Here's the inside. Of one side of the neckline, and this is the other side where I sew the princess panel to the seam. So now it's time to do the same thing for the other side, but this is going to go and be connected to the lining of here, not to the self bodice, just the inside lining. So I'm going to go and place the ruffles at this neckline, then add the lining to cover the edge, and then pleat it, and then place it right here on the lining of the princess seam and add that panel in here. Okay, so here is the bodice, all fully complete. Let me turn this over so you can see what's going on. So here is the lining, and everything is placed where it needs to be in the princess seam. So right now I'm going to add the back panels, and I'm going to connect the lining panels together and the self fabric panels together. So here's the lining. I want my lining to be all separate, so that way when it's time for me to install the boning, I can install it. So all these side seams into place with a 1/2 inch. So now I'm going to go ahead and stitch this seam allowance down very close to the edge so I can have enough room to insert my boning. And I'm going to do that for this princess seam as well, and I'm going to do that for the other side. So here is the seams, and I added a strip of organza right at the center of the back of this panel. So all I did was cut about 1 inch and I just stitched it just like this right in the center. So next up, I'm going to go ahead and close the neckline, seal that up, stitch it closed, and then add the boning to the channels in the princess seam. So here's the neckline. I just pinned that together up until where I notched the point where the flounce starts at the neckline, and then I'm going to go and stitch that closed. With my boning, I'm going to go ahead and insert it in here. But first I have to round these tips off. So this is my bodice. What you're going to do here is measure the waist line of the bodice. So the waistline of my bodice is 28 with seam allowance. Now this measurement will be the measurement that I will be creating my skirt with. Alright, so now it's time to do the skirt. So what I'm gonna do is measure how long I want my skirt to be, and I'm going from selvage to selvage. Okay, so now I'm going to create my circle skirt, which is going to be longer in the front and higher on the sides, because I wanted to have a dimension, a flare dimension for my hem look. So what I did was I folded my fabric in half with whatever was left, and I started at the waistline, and my waist measurement was 28, so I divided that by 4. And a quarter of that, since we're talking about a quarter of the skirt that we are going to cut out the waistline, is 7 inches. But I came down 6.5 because I wanted to have a seam allowance as well. So I went ahead and cut out my front that was a little bit higher because I didn't have that much fabric left anyway, which is fine. So the front was a little bit higher than the back because I wanted the back to be longer, and I did 50 inches for the back, and the front was about 38. I went and cut out my skirt on the organza, my front and back, but the problem with my front, it was going to be short as well, and I did not want that, so I went ahead and invested money to buy additional yardage, about 2.5 yards of organza, which only cost me $5, so that way I can have a full circle skirt that was long, both front and back, and not high on the sides. So therefore, you'll see that when I cut out the pattern is basically I cut out the back portion twice because I wanted it to be a full circle skirt. So now I'm going to put my skirt together, and as always I'm going to go and finish my side seams with a French seam because I want my side seam edges to be cleaned. So here is my skirt. It's much more fuller in person than it's showing here on camera. Now here is the waistline. I pleated it into the princess seam, which kind of gives it a little bit more volume, so I'm okay with that. And this is the back that goes down. So I'm gonna go and adjust the under layer. As you can see, the top skirt is a little higher than the organza, which is fine. I wanted to have like a two-dimensional type of look, which is flared as well. So here I went ahead and cut out a flounce with the flounce pattern that I created earlier, and I just used the scraps that I had left over and just to create this flounce. It has a seam at the center front, which I really don't like, but it is what it is with the scraps that I had. So now it's time for me to install all these pieces into the bodice. So I'm gonna go ahead and connect the skirt shell to the bottom half of the bodice, but I'm going to stop sewing up to here, leaving the lining separate from the bodice. And I'm going to match the seams together and then also apply my peplum right on top as well. So all of these layers will be installed together. Okay, so this is it stitched. So now I'm going to prepare to put in my zipper. And as you can see here, the lining is separate from the actual fabric. So I'm just going to sew this right up to here to close that up, so that way I can install my zipper. And this is the invisible zipper that I'm going to install. So I'm going to go ahead and install it one side at a time, starting from the top all the way down, leading into the skirt. So here is the center back, and I stitched it all the way down to the skirt. So here you can see that the lining is not stitched, and all I have to do now is just turn this inside out and then stitch it. But I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to install the other side, and then when it's time for me to install the lining of the skirt, that's when I will go back and turn this inwards like this and hand stitch this close. So I noticed that my organza, the boning in here is ripping through the organza and coming through, and I don't think I like that. So I'm gonna go out. I already connected the skirt and everything, but I'm gonna go back and change out these bones and put a flat one instead, because I think this is better. Okay, so here is the inside. I got rid of the other boning and put in the flat boning instead, and then stitch my skirt together as I did previously. And again, this is open still, and the zipper is attached to the skirt and inside of the bodice, leaving this lining part open. So here's the center back of the skirt. This is the zipper where it ends, and all I'm going to do is just close that up to the point where it ends by the zipper, starting from that point and sewing it down a ½ inch close. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to bring in my lining to attach to the waistline. So now that I finished stitching the back close, it's time to install the skirt lining. Place the skirt on its right side, and the seam allowance will be on the wrong side, and that will be installed just like this as I did for the outer skirt. So this is the waistline now, completely stitched, and as you can see here, it's not fully stitched, and all I would have to do is go underneath the skirt and just stitch this close going down the zipper, and then close the center back of the lining just as I did the self fabric. And once I've completed that, I'm going to go ahead and do the hem of the skirt by adding horsehair to the edge. Center back of the dress is fully cleaned all the way down to the zipper. So here is the gown. It's finally complete except for the hem. Now this is under $100 right now. I also include the additional extra $5 that I spent on the lining because I wanted a full skirt. Now I have 2 layers of hem, which is full right now, and the horsehair is not going to be enough. 7 yards is not going to be enough. That was total $14. So for me, I don't feel like this is fully complete, so I'm gonna go ahead and invest a little bit more so I can get a much more fuller hem and properly finish this with horsehair. So I'm gonna go and invest a little bit more money to this. How many yards is in here?
45.
Okay, great.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Sorry. 45 yards. That's better than I spent like 14 for 7 yards only.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you get by the yard, that's cost you more.
Yeah. How much is this now?
34.
34.
Thank you.
Okay, so here is the 7 yards that I got, and I'm not using that. Instead, I'm going to be using so much more horsehair. Here is the final gown, and I think I did a fabulous job of creating a wedding gown for $100. So I hope this series inspires you to design something fabulous no matter what budget it is. If you have a good set of skills, you can create something fabulous. Please do watch the other episodes of the series because I think it has great information that will help your sewing craft. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.
I'm like, what are you doing? Just go. Oh, this wind. Yeah, it doesn't want to cooperate.
Nice side right now.
Now look at this on full force.
Come on, come on. Come on, wind, give me a break.